Hey guys, Eric Cleary here, co-founder of Oranges Property Management and the team lead with the investment team at Remax Niagara. I'm here with my close friend and partner, Johnson Andrews from the Vine Group, our in-house trusted mortgage specialist. And today, one of the topics that we want to cover is demographics in terms of tenant profiles, right? Who should you be looking for? Because the tenant profile for a single family 4-bedroom house is much different than a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom basement apartment. Obviously, right? That sounds basic, but you'd be shocked how many situations I've seen where you have a family of 6 living above a single elderly woman in the basement, which that dynamic doesn't work. Now, can it work? Sure, right? Just like I might win the lottery tomorrow, but it's probably not going to happen. No different than that situation. It's probably not going to work. So, demographics, and then where Johnson's going to really sort of add is yes, he can go out and get you a great sort of mortgage product that works very well, that's creative financing and gives you all these options and flexibility. Now, if I don't do my job correctly and or you as an investor make decisions that aren't sort of beneficial to you long term, that mortgage payment's going to be due, right? And if the rental income in the house isn't performing well over the course of 12, 24, 36 plus months, now leveraging that property to maybe buy more is also going to be very difficult and probably unlikely. So demographic, and I feel like a lot of real estate investors focus so much on the asset itself, but not in the ways that I look at it, right? It's oh, there's 2 units, done. No, it's who's going to want to live there, right? What's your demographic of that 1 bedroom in the basement? Is it a single professional? Is it a single mom? Well, maybe now that office space you're marketing needs to be marketed as maybe a nursery. So in terms of the acquisition, know who you're going to rent to. And that's something I think of long before. I've guessed, guys, over the years, I'm probably going to rent to a single nurse that just graduated, and it's happened. Now, not that we're all limiting ourselves to nurses, right? Like if we find there's a whole slew of industries that are wonderful and have a lot of good, hardworking people. But just sort of identify who you're going to rent to. Because if you're trying to get $3,000 a month in Thorold for a 2-bedroom apartment, you might have a lot bigger challenge. Whereas getting $3,000 for a house to a family is a lot easier. So understanding your demographics will really make you a far more successful real estate investor. It will help you use good mortgage products that you're going to get from a guy like Johnson and to help you scale and grow your portfolio as a real estate investor. So anyways, without rambling too much, I'm going to get into a duplex, for instance. Okay, so let's have a standard duplex where you have a unit on the upstairs and a unit in the basement. So Orange List, my company has probably 400 duplexes that we manage. So 800 units. So potentially, 14, 15, 1,600 people just in that particular piece of my management portfolio. So I've learned over the years, not that I want to discriminate, because if you're listening, you're probably an owner in Ontario and you're aware that the LTB is very strict, and, doesn't mean you still don't have the flexibility, or I don't have the flexibility, because we don't have to say yes to every application. Now, I might not come back on that application and say, well, it's because you got 2 kids that I'm not renting to you, right? I just might say, hey, I don't think it's a good fit. So we're here to protect you guys and make sure that I'm not putting you, obviously, in any sort of legal liability that's going to be harmful to you and your family. So what I've learned, professional couples and singles, there's a lot of people, and I hate to say that we rely on it, but there's a lot of people that separate in this country. Unfortunately, it's over 50%, right? And those people can't go out and buy right away. So what do? They become tenants, right? They have to rent for a year or two while the lawyers are separating their assets and figuring out all this stuff. So if we know, and it's not like we're taking advantage, these people need somewhere to live, so we're filling a gap, right? People need housing. So understand that more bedrooms don't always equal more money, because if you try to put 5, 6 bedrooms on a main level, your target market isn't going to be a large family, or it shouldn't be a large family. Now, maybe if it's side by side and there's, only one wall, there's different sort of structures and properties that serve different purposes. But, think of who you're going to rent to. So again, on a duplex, you got usually a 3-bedroom upstairs, maybe a 2, but mostly a 3, and a 1 to 2 bedroom in the basement. Maybe you want to put a couple upstairs, maybe a small family with 1 child and a couple downstairs. Those are kind of how I want you to, or could be 2 single people for all that matters. But you got to be mindful. And it's not that, I've got 2 kids myself, so it's not like I discriminate against children. It's just you want your kids to enjoy. And he's got kids. They play around. They're noisy. If you have somebody that you put downstairs that doesn't, their lifestyle, maybe they work shift work. Maybe they're at work all night and they got to sleep during the day. And you got kids running around playing with balls and toys and all this stuff. So smart real estate investors and smart real estate and focused realtors and property managers think about these things, not only from the acquisition, but to the construction, to how we design things, to where we put living rooms that are like maybe above another living room, kitchens above kitchens. So you have people that are on similar schedules if you rent to the right people. So those are really important factors to consider. And then what area are you buying in? Is this area close to the QEW or the 406, where people that work outside of the city can get to easily, right? Have you thought of that? Have you thought, okay, if I do buy a single family house, is it close to grocery stores, to banks, to all these sort of amenities, Shoppers Drug Marts and drugstores and so on, where people have easy access to get the things that they need, because your target now is a family. Family's got schools to think about, right? Where are the kids going to go to school? How close is the grocery store? How fast does it take the dad or the mom to get to work if they don't work it? Like, there's so many variables that you're not going to get it 100% right. And that's not what I'm trying to tell you guys. You're not going to be like, I'm going to rent to John who works at IBM. And I'm just saying, ask yourself the question, whether it's commercial, residential, multi-unit, it doesn't matter. Ask yourself the question, who do you envision living here? That will help you spend the money in construction on the areas you should. It will help you buy the right house in the first place. It will help you sort of understand what this investment's going to look like. And those are all things that I've learned to think about on a very deep level. And Johnson can talk a little bit about what strong rents over a period of a year, 2-3 years looks like, and what it could do to help somebody like you not only make that current investment profitable, but help you scale and buy more. And we'll wrap up with Johnson sort of covering that, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so Eric hit the nail on the head. We always want to be mindful of the people in which that you're renting to, because at the end of the day, that rent is something in which that we can use to qualify for more lending in the future. If you're someone that's looking at buying a new property every 1 year, every 2 years, every 3 years, we want to ensure that the rents are going to be as strong as possible at the times in which that we're applying. So there's times even when Eric's looking at people, or when they have their portfolio and we're considering the tenants that we're taking from the original acquisition, we might look at someone and try and get someone in which that they're going to be out of the property maybe in a year or 2 years when you're going to look to buy again, so that we can get a new tenant in at the higher market rents that are available at that time, right? On the flip side of things, when it comes to also managing a property, Eric also pointed out the fact that you might have a situation where if you had the wrong tenant profile, they leave, or if they're in a position where your tenants aren't paying, that mortgage is still due. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with Eric for some time now. I know those aren't the type of people that he rents his clients' properties to, but if you're going to do it on your own, it's something that you should be mindful of. And this is an additional cost that you'll have to take on. So that's something where we can look at the different mortgage products that are available, see if there's skip a payment options or miss a payment options, where, say, if your tenant didn't pay you for this month, we can request from the lender a 1 month allowance in terms of not making a payment and having that interest added to your balance and letting it accrue, just so that you're not tight cash flow wise. But to me, this is something that you wish that you would never have a situation of being in. And it's something that can be mitigated by working with the right property manager and setting your business up properly from inception, because by having the right tenants in place, it's going to allow you to have a much easier life moving forward and while you're managing and owning that property.
100%. And Johnson just brought up a really good point that I didn't touch on. You know, demographic is, I touched on like sort of amounts of people and sort of what position they're in terms of working hours. You want to try to make sure all those things align, don't get me wrong. But you're right. If you might have a property, a really excellent 3-bedroom unit that's going up every year by 5, 6, 7% maybe, and inflation and what the landlord tenant board allows you to raise the rent by is 1 to 2%. So maybe a tenant walking into your house and saying, "Oh my gosh, I want to live here forever." that might be a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? So understanding, is this somebody whose life is on a good trajectory where they're probably going to turn into a buyer in 2 to 3 years? And by you letting that, well, not letting, because they've served their year lease on a month to month, by them leaving, all of a sudden you just created an extra $3,000-$4,000 a year in cash flow. Yes, you got to pay me 1 month's rent to re-rent it for you, but you're still up, what, 60-70% in terms of that specific cash flow on a monthly basis. So again, guys, understand who you're renting to, why you're renting to that person, and is it the best tenant to serve the ultimate purpose of that property, are some really important questions that not enough people ask themselves. And Johnson and I definitely want to take as much time as needed to explain that to you guys and show you examples, right? Like, I've got a ton of experience, guys. We manage thousands of units. So I understand, I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, but I certainly have learned a lot of valuable lessons that I can bring to people like you so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made. All right, guys? Thank you so much for checking in with us today, and we sincerely wish you all the best, and we really hope we get the opportunity to talk with you guys very soon. Make it a great day.